Okay, so this is a video on meditation and embodiment. So obviously mindfulness is huge now, big area. We can think of mindfulness as the base of embodiment, body awareness. Embodiment, though, is also adding change, choice to that, so centering, for example, or influencing other people. Also social awareness, so social mindfulness is part of embodiment. However, all that being said, mindfulness meditation is a very, very useful base for embodiment teachers. This is why it's a mandatory part of the Embodied Facilitator course, something you signed up for if you're watching this as an EFC student. If you're not, just to say that anyone out there who's working with the body, it's really, really like a good idea to meditate, I'd say daily, and also to do some deeper experiences like meditation retreats and things like this. So there's different types of meditation you can do. In this video, I'll go through some of the basics of posture, some of the techniques, and how it relates to embodiment. So if we think of embodiment as awareness-based, so mindfulness is building that base of awareness, that basic body awareness and basic ability to concentrate. Now, most meditations involve the body, not all. There are some that involve, for example, purely visualization or tracking one's thoughts, for example. So generally with embodiment students, I recommend some of the classic body-based meditations, body scanning, for example. And I won't go through a full body scan here as a taught thing, but to give you some background, there's different ways to do it. One is to systematically scan through the body from bottom to top to bottom. You can experiment which works better for you, bringing attention systematically to parts of the body. And that can be really useful as embodiment teachers because we'll notice like, oh, I'm not really aware of my neck, or I tend not to notice my ankles is one I notice for some reason, yeah? So really tuning into the body systematically can be helpful. Another way to do it, if you're a bit agitated, is just what jumps out into your awareness. So like for me, it's my belly right now, like what's most in your awareness right now? Sometimes I use that method, particularly if I'm a bit agitated and it's hard to concentrate because it's less of a concentration practice, more of just a body awareness practice. Still valuable. Another one, if you find meditation difficult, would be to focus just on pleasure. So it's like, for example, I'm now sitting down. I was just standing up recording for the last 2 hours, and it's really nice to sit down. There's like a feeling, yeah? The out breath, you may notice that, the jaw. There's feelings of pleasure in the body. You can kind of be Pavlovian in your approach to meditation where you're focusing on just pleasure in the body. So this can be good for kind of if you have a difficult relationship with the body, to be like, okay, the body, there's some nice things in the body, yeah? So that's a third way of practicing body scanning. I got that from Shinzen Young. Shin like leg, Zen like Zen, Young like not old. Shinzen Young, really worth looking at. Body scanning, but basically you may hear this called Vipassana meditation, which is confusing because it's also a name of a school of Buddhism and a type of retreat. It comes from classical Theravada Buddhism, which is like old school, oldest form of Buddhism that exists. Body scanning, really good place to start if you're new to this. You can also use concentration of breath practice. So again, focusing on the breath is part of the body. What is the breath? It's the movement of the body that lets you know you're breathing. Usually tip of the nose, sometimes the chest, sometimes the belly. Belly is a little bit more grounding, I find, for me, but there's different advantages to each. Again, experiment, pick one and practice this technique. This time, instead of focusing on the whole body and when your mind drifts, bringing your attention back. That's key. You don't have to empty your mind. I should say that if you're a beginner. Just your mind will drift. You will start usually planning, sometimes remembering, sometimes judging. Notice that. Bring yourself back to the body. Congratulate yourself. Be like, yep, I'm still meditating. You're still meditating if you notice that you're not meditating, right? You get that? So if I go, oh, look, I'm daydreaming, you're still meditating. You just noticed you were daydreaming. So don't see this as like, I can't meditate. That doesn't help. Yeah, or hit yourself with a stick. Just go, oh, look, my mind drifted. Come back to the body. Or to be a bit more precise, you could use the breath. So the sensations of breathing, particularly at the tip of the nose, for example, these sensations of breathing rather than the imagination here, but really feeling. Breath is really good as a practice because it's so core to embodiment. Like every embodiment system out there works with the breath. We use it in centering, we use it in emotional expression, we use it so much. So a practice where you become really intimate with the breath, I find is super, super helpful as a deepener for embodied practice. The breath is often like the early warning signs of a change, often one of the most subtle ways we can notice and change ourselves. and we have access to the breath at all times, or else we're dead, right? So it's super, super useful to tune into that, get better at noticing the breath, the quality of the breath, different size and different breaths that you might have. So breath meditation is super useful. Word of caution, it can make you a little bit dissociated from the rest of your body. If that happens, you can even make the breath focus a bit more global, so you notice the whole body breathing, because pretty much the whole body moves when you breathe because it's all attached, right? Though certainly you'll feel it more in some places. So you can make the breath meditation more global if you find yourself getting a little breath focused, unless it can be a way to emotionally dissociate or dissociate from other discomfort in the body, or you can go back to the body scanning. These are two kind of classics. I don't want to sort of dictate, if you're watching this as an EFC student, which of these to do. You can use either. If you already have an established practice, you might want to experiment, you might want to stick with what works for you. Certainly a few experiments, but I would say to commit to one type for a little while. Similarly, like how you practice. So practicing at a regular time each day is very, very helpful. A regular place is helpful. I mean, even when I go to a hotel for a week, like at the moment I'm away from home, I use one corner of the hotel and I put a rolled up towel there and I put a sign on it saying housekeeping not to take it away. So I get a little routine, I do this in the morning in a certain corner of the hotel. So a certain time and place can be very helpful. Minimum of 10 minutes, okay? So if you're on EFC, there's a commitment to this, but 10 minutes is good. Certain sort of hormone levels and things take about 10 minutes to settle. If you can do longer, great. If you want to do much longer, feel free. At one point I was doing 4 hours a day. That's probably a bit much. So upper limit, a couple of hours a day. Otherwise you get a bit weird, is what I discovered anyway. In a non-monastic environment, that's probably even a little dangerous. So, if you can work up to 1 hour a day, brilliant. 2 hours, pretty hardcore. Wouldn't necessarily go beyond that unless you're on a retreat. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up, just come back to it the next day. Key thing is if you miss a day, notice if it's different. I notice if I miss a day, I'm just ragged and I'm not happy and I'm less nice. And I go, okay, maybe don't miss the next day because I notice the effect here, yeah? Key thing when you sit down, what's your intention? And afterwards, notice the effect and thank yourself. Yeah, this is part of the process. So as I sit down, I'm like, right, I'm going to focus on my breath for 20 minutes. The purpose of this is develop my concentration and breath awareness. So start with the aim in mind. Do the method, be really clear what the method is, and this relates to how we teach teaching for those of you who are EFC students. What's the method? So be really clear if you're following a guided meditation or you've learned a technique, what's the method? So you're not looking for the outcome, right? So not being like, I must be more relaxed. It's like, no, don't worry about that. The method is pay attention to the breath or pay attention to the whole body systematically. Just stay with the method, keep coming back to that. At the end, you can notice the result, but also be aware that the result may be long-term. So you might feel anxious because you're focused on the breath. You could shift the body if you feel anxious with the breath. Wendy Palmer suggests that. Or you could just go, okay, right now that's the effect. Long-term might be a positive effect. So you're noticing the effect in your life as well, because if it's not showing up in your life, like what's the point, right? Minimum a couple of months before you start seeing really strong effects. Though you may notice a state change immediately. It's quite common. I work with business people. I do a 3-minute meditation and they go, wow, this is the calmest I've been all year, after 3 minutes. So you may well notice that effect. Congratulate yourself, not for the effect, but for the effort, yeah? So virya in Pali, the effort, it's not effort like trying too hard, but some positive intention. Thank yourself for making the time. If you're a busy person, you've got screaming kids, you might have to get up early, meditate late. Meditation is normally easier morning and evening, usually not when you're too sleepy or in the middle of the day when you're often agitated. Depends on the person, but you can experiment. But congratulate yourself for making that time and having an intention to take it out into the rest of your life. So it's notice the effect, congratulate yourself, thank yourself. You might also thank your teachers, your tradition, and then have that intention to take it out. That's really important, that intention. In Buddhism, it might be like a dedication, like for the benefit of all sentient beings. You don't have to be a Buddhist or Hindu or anything else to meditate. You can be completely secular. So regular time of day, regular practice. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Come back to it. 6 days a week is pretty good for beginners, I find. Minimum EFC commitment is 10 minutes a day, 6 days a week, which is sort of the minimum. You might want to gear that up. So I've talked about practice, jumping around a bit here. The basic practices we recommend, these are basic Theravada and Buddhist practices, but you'll find them like classic traditions. Third one, metta. This is kindness or universal friendliness meditation. You'll sometimes hear it translated as loving kindness, but that's a bit of a loose translation. It's more universal friendliness, or metta bhavana, it's sometimes called. You'll find many of these online. People like Pema Chodron and all sorts of great teachers teach this. So this is what we could call heart-based meditation. And in metta meditation, you'll find me leading another video on this. If you Google that video, you'll find it if you need, but you'll find loads online. You're wishing well. And the idea here is we're not just paying attention. Yes, we're still paying attention to the body. We may be adding a visualization of light and expansiveness, but we're wishing well. And this has an effect on mood. It can make you less aggressive, less fearful. If you're just doing concentration meditation, you can get very sharp. And certainly, I think for embodiment teachers to have this sense of kindness, like Paul Linden, one of my teachers, is pure embodiment of this. That sense of sort of loving kindness is really important, and people really notice the difference. And it can be super useful for like stress, anxiety, and different things. So metta bhavana practice, and if you get into that, you might want to look at the sister practices. There's 4 of them, the 4 Brahma Viharas, they're called, divine abodes. So there's also compassion, which is like kindness for suffering. And then there's the opposite, in a way, which is sympathetic joy, or empathic delight, which is where you think of sort of happy things or good things happening to people, and then you feel, it's like, you know, when you see a friend and they do well, and you feel that sense of celebration, so you're cultivating that. So this is like metta applied compassion to bad things, to, you know, painful things, suffering, and in mudita, I believe it's called, to the good things, the happiness people have. And then there's equanimity. Balance these 3, which is this is how it is right now. This is how it is. If you're someone that tends to get overly involved, too pushy, or you get like codependent, this equanimity practice can be a nice emotional addition. So you should think of these as like an emotional toolkit. There's many out there, but these are pretty solid, tried and tested from Theravadan tradition. Heart-based practices, emotional toolkit to work with. So you're not just developing your concentration, but also the emotional embodiment, the warmth, the love, you know, like what's the point otherwise, right? So this is really, really useful. As everything, try it. So there's the basic practices. A little bit about posture now. Buddha said you could actually meditate in 4 positions: standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. The classic is sitting because it's a nice balance between awakeness and relaxation. Yeah, standing up is good if you're super sleepy. Lying down on a hard surface if you're super anxious, but not if you're tired. Okay, can be helpful. Sometimes meditate lying down at the end of yoga, for example, because you're not going to fall asleep because you've got that blood pumping from yoga. Standing up is good. As I said, if you're sleepy or you struggle with sitting down, or you sit down too much in the day, for example, you might try that. But sitting is a nice balance. You can sit on a cushion. I usually sit on the floor with my legs in what's called cobbler's position. Legs crossed, not so good, they tend to go dead. Lotus is a bit hard for most people, but if you're very flexible, is a good position. Sitting on a chair, totally valid. I still meditate in the chair. I meditate in the train sometimes with white noise in my ears, or on the aeroplane, you know, if I get up really early and can't be bothered to meditate at 3 a.m. at home, you know. So you can meditate in any sitting position. Key things, not gonna fall asleep. So if I'm slumped, you know, the pelvis is rolled up and the spine is concave, I'm just likely to go to sleep. Right? So usually the pelvis is coming forward slightly, and what can help is sitting either at the back of the chair or right at the front of the chair, so you're not tempted to lean back, right? There's too much space. You could put a towel there or a cushion, have that position where the shoulders are relaxed, the hands can be this way up. This is a little lighter, this is a little bit more grounded. Is that in the picture, yeah? So this way, I find sort of Zen for concentration. That can be nice to really focus in. Often in yoga they do that, but usually grounding's usually traditional. But any way that's relaxed, the arms. And usually you want the knee lower than the hip. So this chair is a reasonable height for me. Now, if you're a short person, you'll find that you might need a cushion under your feet. If you're a tall person, you might need a cushion under your butt, because otherwise, if your knees are up here, what happens is the pelvis rolls back, then you slump. It's not so good for your organs, it's not comfortable, and you'll fall asleep. So if that knee needs to be at least the same height, if not a bit lower than the hip. And that's the same principle if you're sitting cross-legged on the floor. Usually the feet are flat on the floor. And again, if you're short, you might need a block. Chairs come in one size, so feet flat on the floor is usually good. Usually the knee roughly aligned with the ankle, so not sort of in or out, usually in that position rather than in or out. Yeah. And spine is upright but relaxed and rising slightly from the back of the head. So not this, with the chin up, okay, but here, it's gentle raising from the back. Usually eyes closed. If that makes you very stressed, you can always just look down. There are some schools of meditation that have the eyes open, looking at a wall, for example. Bit more advanced in some ways. I find better with the eyes closed, but if you get sleepy or anxious, you can always open the eyes and just stay looking down. Yeah, so basic position, anything which is relaxed but upright, awake without being stressed is the key thing. You're using the posture to maintain awakeness. So sometimes you get anxious, you might relax the posture. Sometimes you might firm the posture up, or zen, come forwards a bit. It can be helpful. Key thing here is to use the posture to regulate your mind and help with that concentration practice. Last thing, how you meditate. Okay, so it's the position you're in, the technique you use, but it's also how you do it. So if you're a very earthy person wanting to be more airy, then you might not want to pick the same time every day, the same meditation, right? You might want to pick a different kind of meditation. There is a 4 elements meditation, by the way, and a deaf meditation worth looking at. I've got a video on that. But key thing is how you meditate. So if you're practicing kindness, it makes no sense to be like, you have to meditate on kindness, and you're an idiot if you don't do it, right? That's not very kind. So be aware of how you meditate as well as the technique you use. It's a little bit more advanced, but embodiment's all about the how. So super useful base for embodiment teachers. I literally don't know a single high-level embodiment teacher who doesn't meditate every day, literally every single one of them, which says something, right? It's the base of awareness. So then when you go to yoga or dance, you've got this awareness base, you have the breath, the body. So it's super, super useful. When we're coaching, we have that body awareness we can take to noticing our response with coachees. So that's mindfulness as a base of embodiment. There's videos on most of the other things I've selected, like different methods. There's lots of good apps out there, like Headspace or Buddhify, though. If you're guided meditation is good if you're a beginner, I would say, because it can keep you on track. So lots of good resources free on the internet. So I hope meditation is something that enriches your embodiment practice. For me, it's if I do one practice every day, it's meditation. I did it this morning before filming. Absolutely wasn't going to stay in bed for those 10 minutes. I was like, right, at least 10 minutes of meditation. It's going to help my whole day. I noticed the difference. I think you will if you practice. So give it a go. And if you're already a regular meditator, this could be a good way to sort of take that to the next level. You know, like going on a weekend retreat if you've not done that. Wouldn't necessarily recommend a 10-day Vipassana retreat if you're a complete beginner, but maybe 3 days or 5 days, silent, semi-silent retreat. If you're hardcore and you've done that, you could try a solitary retreat for a week. That's really interesting. Or monastic stay for a month. Maybe take it to the next level if you're already pretty solid with this. But if you're a beginner, no problem. Just 10 minutes a day, give it a go.